this presentation, I will introduce the learner to integrating technology for inquiry, also known as NTeQ. NTeQ is an instructional method used to integrate technology into classroom lessons. NTeQ is a lesson planning and problem-based model which involves a 10-step process. This 10-step process emphasizes the use of technology, such as a computer, as a tool for learning to assist students in applying technology skills successfully. The first step of NTeQ is specifying objectives. The instructor must ask the questions, what learning does this lesson need to achieve? What are the goals of my lesson? The learning objectives need to include all of the instruction for the lesson, not only the objectives related to the computer component of the lesson. The second step involves matching the objectives and goals to the computer functions. The instructor must identify what computer functions are related to the experience and will best support the student mastering the learning objectives. Examples of computer functions include spreadsheet, the drawing program, concept mapping, and word processing. If an objective is related to organizing information, word processing may be ideal to use. If an objective is related to evaluating information, a spreadsheet may be the appropriate software to use. The third step is to specify a problem. This step requires the students to investigate and solve a problem to meet the learning objectives defined in step 1. The instructor needs to develop a problem which needs to be an authentic and typical problem that the student may encounter in the real world. The goal of the third step is that the students will develop problem-solving and thinking skills, all the while obtaining knowledge related to the lesson objectives. The fourth step is planning the data manipulation. This step involves planning how the student will manipulate data. During this phase, the student needs to solve the problem to achieve the learning objective. To do this, data must be provided, found, or created. The teacher must determine how the student will solve the problem. The teacher must ask the following questions. Will the data need to be provided to the student, or will the data necessary to address the problem be collected by the student or created by the student? The teacher must have a plan in place for the process. The teacher needs to utilize the objectives as a guide to how the student will employ the data. The teacher will also determine what the student will do with the data to find the answer to the problem. Step 5 is planning the results presentation. This step involves planning what the student will produce to represent proficiency of the learning. During this step, and when planning what the students will create, the teacher needs to be mindful of the best way that the student can present the results of the time spent using a computer. The teacher needs to plan what students will create with the data, such as a written report, a poster, a blog or website, or a slideshow. Step 6 is planning the activities while using the computer. The teacher must ask, how will the student discover the answer to the problem? Again, the teacher needs to be mindful of the process the student will complete and decide what the student will do while on the computer. The teachers also need to determine if the activity will be an individual or group process. The teacher will need to trial each phase of lesson development on the computer before administrating the lesson and to avoid student problems during the lesson. Step 7 is planning the activities prior to using the computer. The teacher may need to create a think sheet to assist the students in identifying the information that they will need while on the computer. The purpose of this step is to ensure that the students have the material required to complete the computer task to make the process more efficient. Step 8 is planning the activities after using the computer. In this step, the student will explore the results and analyze data obtained while on the computer. Students should be allowed to compare, analyze, or reflect on the learning process. Step 9 is planning the supporting activities. These supporting activities may include anything that supports learning not related to the computer task, such as a lecture, class discussion, or assigned reading. Step 10 is planning the evaluation. This step involves assessing student learning. The assessment of student learning is important so that the teacher will know if the instructional strategies or lesson plan was successful, as well as if the student accomplished proficiency of the content. These things can be evaluated through items such as multiple choice testing, essay test, a portfolio, or a project. Using the NTeQ model, teachers become facilitators in the classroom to guide their students as the students work to solve a problem using technology. In today's environment, students must be able to apply computer skills in a relevant way that not only enhances their learning but prepares them for the computer-supported workforce in the future.